In this series, we're going to help you build actual products with Claude Code, starting from zero prior knowledge. Let's dive right in. Claude Code builds software for you. You describe what you want in plain English, and it writes the code. It creates the files it needs, runs them, and fixes its own mistakes as it goes. Now, it isn't magic. You still do the thinking, and it has real weak spots, which we'll cover in a later video. But if you've ever had an idea and stopped because you don't code, that's no longer in your way. In this first video, we'll install it on a fresh machine and build something real. Before we can install anything, you need to meet the place where Claude Code actually lives, the terminal. The terminal is just another way of using your computer. It was around before the mouse, and it survived because it's direct. When you click a button, you're telling the computer to do something. In the terminal, you type that instruction instead, and the computer carries it out the same way. On a Mac, it's called terminal. On Windows, we'll use PowerShell, which works the same way. We care about it because Claude Code runs inside the terminal. You'll only need a handful of commands, and I'll show you each one before you type it. Let's open it. On a Mac, press Command space, type terminal, and hit Enter. On Windows, open the Start menu, type PowerShell, and open it. You get the same kind of window. Now for the install itself. The exact command is in the description below this video, so copy it from there rather than typing it by hand. Before you run it, it's worth knowing what it does, because pasting commands you don't understand is how people get into trouble. It goes to Anthropic's official address, downloads a small installer, and runs it. The installer puts Claude Code where your computer can find it and sets up automatic updates, so you only ever do this once. Paste it in, press Enter, and give it a few seconds. It'll print a few lines about what it did, and you can safely ignore them. Let's make sure it's there. Type Claude-version and press Enter. If a version number comes back, the install worked. On Windows, there's a decent chance you get an error saying the command wasn't recognized. Nothing is broken. A terminal reads the list of installed programs when it first opens, and your window opened before Claude Code joined that list. So close the terminal completely, open a new one, and run Claude-version again. If a new window still can't find it, the installer didn't manage to update that list. The description has a one-line fix for that case. One more tool worth knowing. If anything ever feels off later, Claude Doctor is a built-in check that looks over your setup and tells you what's wrong. Here's the part that's easy to skip and causes the most confusion later. When you start Claude Code, you start it inside a folder, and that folder is its whole world. It can only see and work with the files inside it. So make one folder per project and start Claude from inside it. That keeps the work contained and pointed at the right files. Here's what that looks like. mkdir, my-first-project creates the folder, and cd, my-first-project, steps inside it. The same as double-clicking a folder open. Then type Claude. The first time, a browser window opens so you can log in, and it only ever asks once. Every conversation is a session, and sessions save automatically, so you can close the terminal without losing anything. You can even run several in the same folder at once, and they stay separate. When you come back, Claude-C continues the most recent session in that folder, and Claude-resume shows a list of your past sessions, so you can pick the one you want. For a session that matters, give it a name. Start it with Claude-N and a name, or type /rename inside it, and Claude-resume with that name takes you straight back. One warning before we move on. The longer a conversation runs, the more it costs and the slower it gets. So carrying a single session on forever is a bad habit. There's a better rhythm to this, and we'll get into it later. Let's put it to work. We're in the empty folder with Claude running, and I'll ask for something the way I'd ask a person. Build me a simple web page with a countdown timer to a date I can set. Make it look clean. It works out what files it needs, writes them, and builds the page. Notice that I never said what language to use or how to structure anything. That single sentence got us a working page. It won't always be this easy, and real projects take more than one line. But that's how low the starting bar is now for someone who doesn't code. One last thing, and it's the part that matters most once you start using this for real work. Every session starts fresh, with no memory of the conversation you had in the last one. So the job is to leave notes behind in the folder where the next session will find them. There are two kinds of notes worth making a habit of. The first is research. Sometimes you'll ask about something newer than what Claude learned in training, like a library that just shipped. Claude can go look that up, but the answer lives in that conversation, and the conversation ends with the session. So have Claude save it. Tell Claude, write what you just learned about this into a markdown file in this folder, so we have it later. Now it's part of the project, and the next session will find it there. The second is a file called CLAUDE.md. It's the first thing Claude reads on startup, like a note you'd leave for a new person joining the project. Once you've built something real, have Claude write one. Create a CLAUDE.md for this project. Cover what it does, why it's built this way, anything non-obvious someone would trip on, the file layout, and the main tools it uses. The non-obvious part is where the value is, because those decisions were made for reasons you can't see in the files. That knowledge usually lives in one person's head. Once it's written down, Claude reasons about your project correctly instead of guessing. So when you finish a real chunk of work, save the state before you close out. Something as plain as, before we stop, update the Claude.md with anything important we worked out today. Do that, and every session builds on the last one instead of starting from nothing. That's the foundation. Claude Code is installed, you know your way around the terminal, every project has its own folder, you've built a working page, and your progress is saved where the next session will pick it up. Next time, we'll put this to work on something bigger and get into the habits that keep Claude fast, accurate, and affordable as a project grows.